Those of you who don't have pets are certainly wondering what pets mean to us who have them, why we have them, and love them so much. Imagine the life of a creature fighting for a crumb of seed in a prison like this. Small life is estimated and sold for a certain price. Imagine the happiness when you save one of these animals from such places. Honor the exceptions to those people who are perfect breeders which do their job with a lot of love and effort around these little creatures. Once upon a time, in one place, in one pet shop, lived a little tiny creature. No, there lived many other wonderful little creatures, but only some of them were lucky enough to be adopted. As he was nibbling on his portion, he was spotted by a dad with his son. Dad was looking for a male, a young budgie, to fulfill his son's wish. The son himself raised money for the cage and his friend, as he loved the color blue, so the little one was lucky to be chosen. A boy named Benjamin, overjoyed and proud, walked out of the store in his arms, carefully holding a frightened friend. The trader, which is the only purpose, was to sell as many products from the shop as possible, sold them food, a feeder, a drinker, and a round cage, which is never recommended for keeping birds in the home. Unfortunately, Dad didn't know that. He was still learning about these little creatures. When they brought him home, it was Sunday, November 11th. Located from the beginning in the highest corner of the room, he watched his humans. He realized how much they loved him and surrendered to that love. Benjamin gave him the name Kiki. Just as the boy's birthday was celebrated every year, so was the birthday of adoption. 4 months after arriving at home, the owners noticed large holes in his beak and contacted an experienced breeder on one Facebook group. They were very worried, but with the help of the breeder, they managed to cure the mites that their Kiki had already upon arrival. He spent time outside the cage and stayed in it only when he was hungry. He even slept often outside the cage. He loved every member of the family as much as only he knows. He loved playing with the boy on the floor. He performed various stunts with his dad and the ball, and it was the softest on his mother's head and shoulder as he talked and sang in a soft voice. He soon got a new, bigger cage, worthy of a budgie. The days went by. The family enjoyed his songs every day. He learned to imitate the sounds of his favorite ball. It was great. As he had not seen feather friends for a long time, owners decided to take him on a visit as such. A month before his first birthday, he visited Danny the budgie. He had a great time, but his humans realized that a feather friend could not be replaced by a human. The first birthday has passed. He received his first gifts, and the owners are thought more and more about buying another pet. The owners were real bird lovers. In the meantime, they came across another species of parrot that the owner could no longer keep, and they decided to go get it. A bigger, fatter friend arrived. Kiki was just as happy as the family. It was not advisable to keep two species of parrots close to each other. The owners always kept a watchful eye on the two of them, because Kiki was by nature a real joy. He sang and jumped around everything in his path. Rio was a real cuddly bear, but jealous. Kiki realized this and started avoiding him. Once Miro were in his cage and large quantities of feathers suddenly began to fall off. He was under stress because of an invisible friend who does not return his love. Not long after, he began to express his love on toys. It was a huge trigger for his owners not to wait any longer. They need to get Kiki's friend urgently. He was soon to turn 2 in their home. The owners decided to go for a birthday present for their Kiki. They did not return with one gift, but 2 beautiful little creatures moved into a new home, Fiona and Balto. What a wonderful birthday party they had! Kiki was happy. Everything was going like a wonderful dream. In those days, Dad threw himself into making a bigger house for their feather friends. After a month, they soon moved in that big cage, and each of them found their favorite place. Kiki was fascinated by the beauty of the young girl Fiona. She was a real timid girl. Balto was a baby who spent only 42 days with the owners at the home. He suddenly left them. The owners were very sad. It took a long time for Fiona to surrender to the enormous love that Kiki showed her in various ways. Days and months passed. In the spring, when Fiona turned 1 year old and Kiki was almost 3 years old, the owners decided to put a nest in their cage. That year, nothing happened except researching the nest. In the fall of that year, the owners made a metal cage for Indian ringneck Rio, and Rio's cage became home to budgies. That fall, the owner's mother died. Grief and many people passed through the house for days and months. The parrots have been moved to a quieter place, to another room, where guests will not be bothered to budgies. It seems to have been the trigger to have some news in the cage next year. Meanwhile, in December that year, the owners have adopted another one budgie. They named him Lucky. After a month of separation, he began to keep company of Kiki and Fiona in a cage. They used to get along fine, but then one day Fiona didn't come out of the nest. She peered out of the nest entrance. Kiki fed her constantly. Any attempt to get young Lucky closer to Fiona would end by bites by Kiki and Fiona. So Lucky spent more and more time alone in the corners of the cage, playing with the toys or with the owners. Fiona used to go out and her bigger belly was noticeable. Large poop were soon visible at the bottom of the cage. Yes, Fiona will lie an egg soon. Owner saw the first egg. You can't even imagine the happiness that Kiki showed towards Fiona and the eggs. He fed Fiona so devotedly, he sang so much, he jumped all 4 days after a last egg arrived around eggs and Fiona. He was entering the nest he was feeding so cheerfully. When the owner brought fruit, he would go out on her head, jump, fly, and come back. Nothing unusual happened until the morning of February 12th. That morning, the owner noticed that Kiki was slightly puffy feathers, but he was still cheerfully feeding Fiona. That day, the owner's younger sister came to visit with her mother and gave them a gift, a beautiful budgie Tinkerbell. After the guest left, the owner went to see her little birds in the afternoon. She was worried about Kiki, especially since it was the weekend, the vet wasn't worked. Fiona didn't push Lucky away. She ate on her own from the feeder, and Kiki acted like there was no one around his Fiona. The owner's heart broke when she saw the scene. She didn't want to separate him from Fiona and the eggs, but when she saw it, she had to. She started crying. She didn't know what would happen now. That afternoon, she separated him into a cage, put a few drops of garlic juice in the water, sprinkled food on the floor, and put the cage in a warm place. She spoken to him gently, put Tinkerbell closer to his cage, but he reacted poorly. She went to bed worried, with cry and 1,000 questions in her head. Fiona called Kiki all the night. The morning dawned. It was Sunday, the 13th of February. Lucky was in a cage with Fiona, and that wasn't very good now when Kiki isn't in the cage. She wouldn't let him get close to the entrance. The owners separated Lucky from that cage and put him with the Tinkerbell into the small temporary cage they currently had. Kiki was not well at all. He was at the bottom of the cage. The situation worsened overnight. The hours passed. The afternoon arrived. While family were all sitting in other room, a loud, fast flutter of wings was heard. Everyone ran into the room. Kiki was moving fast only one side of his wing, lying with his head down on the floor of the cage. He was moving frantically on the bottom for a few seconds, fluttering his wing. He stopped suddenly. There was silence. The owner was crying. It was over. Everyone was sad. Mickey remembered playing with him and his ball. Benjamin started crying too. He was buried in the most beautiful corner of the garden. The concern did not go away. Fiona and the eggs were there, alive. Everyone knows that babies are not only taken care of by the mother budgie. The greatest care for babies is taken over by the father budgie, and owners didn't have that. The owners sought advice from various breeders. They didn't know what to do. Some said she could do it alone, and others said she would not be able to. Some said that the owners would have to feed the babies by hand. Many of them suggested putting another older male budgie. They were guided by the fact that males are friendly birds, and that it is possible to accept babies and help feed Fiona's babies. The owners thought about that and other suggestions. The last suggestions seemed normal to them to try. There are 4 or 5 days left until the first chicken hatches. They talked to the owner's sister about it, and they asked her if there was any male she would borrow and let them try. She suggested Renato to them. She said he was gentle, that he already had experience in feeding other babies that were not his. She knew him like the back of her hand. She was sure he would never hurt the babies and Fiona. But every one of them feared that Fiona would reject eggs or babies, wanting to mate with Renato and have other eggs. They decided to take him before the eggs hatched, and they brought him. They put him in a cage with Fiona. Fiona screamed from the entrance to the nest and dilated her pupils. She was very angry. He spent that and another day in a cage with her. He immediately started singing to her, but when he approached the entrance, Fiona chased him away and bit him. At one point she bit him so hard that he fell to the bottom of the cage. He didn't approach her anymore. The owner wanted to get him out of that cage, but once again she remembered one group on Facebook. There is one inexperienced breeder who had already had once. When she published the post, he immediately contacted her and said that she should separate the male immediately. He can break eggs and something else. He gave some more advice and said it would work. Fiona was not the only bird which this happened. There have been many more such cases where one of the parents dies. Two days later, a quiet, strange tone came from the nest. Yes, it was the first baby. It saw the light of day on February 7th, exactly 19 days from the day she laid the egg. The next day, on February 18th, another baby arrived. The bottom of the nest was slippery, which is not good for the baby's feet. The owner threw in a little sawdust every day between her fingers. Fiona still didn't want to eat anything except seeds. She laid carefully on the eggs, warmed the babies, and fed them. The third chicken arrived on February 21st. The owner offered her egg food every other day, but she still didn't not wanted it. The fourth baby arrived on February 23rd. The last baby arrived on February 25th, and that day Fiona started to eat egg food. The oldest baby was 8 days older than the youngest one. The family kept thinking about Kiki. They thought about how happy he would be to see them. He was the happiest bird they knew. They hoped Fiona would be able to feed the babies. They hoped that at least one of them looked like his father. They had no experience in hand feeding and prayed that it would not happen. Fiona has always been a tamed bird, but when she got babies and lost Kiki, that changed. She became different. She was not afraid of the owner's hand. She seemed to realize that Kiki wasn't coming. She cared incessantly for her babies, feeding them whenever they cried. You know, baby birds cry just like human babies. She didn't leave them often. She would just rush to drink water and eat out of the nest and eat egg food in the nest. Fiona called Kiki for several nights. She had stopped when the babies arrived, but from time to time she remembered, and again during the night her mournful cries were heard. Lucky managed to catch some of Kiki's singing sounds. In the house, when everyone hears it, it brings tears to their eyes. Grow, babies, grow into beautiful bodies and beautify the lives of your owners.